about Sparta, whatnot. Matt, how are you doing, buddy? You're still down in Florida. You look good. What do you think?
Yeah, I look good, feel good. Trying to channel
turn that mic down. Holy cow.
What? I'm at like 6 on the decibel meter here.
It's like
it just readjusted. I love when Zoom just decides to kind of like
there's a setting for that.
I know, but it just popped back up after I changed. I'm fine. I have nothing else to add. I'm fine. I'm trying to channel my inner fly fisher with my hat that I bought. I'm really excited about this, and a couple of ponds, streams out back. I might get out there with the pole and pick up some trout, Kai. Hopefully they're biting today.
Oh, yeah, you're a big trout guy. Hey, our stream's working. This is fantastic. I don't know exactly when it started going live. You probably saw the behind the scenes, but whatever. That's how it goes, man. We're new at this. Come on. We don't have a production team yet. Wink. Nah, don't want to tease anything. That's not happening. All right. Show outline. Roots Roundup. We've saw that 3-man thoughts. And of course, a nice little weekend preview to tie a bow on it. It's our standard show. Self-promotion, kind of. We're going to give props to Jay Pitty right quick. He does our intro and outro music, which can only be found on the podcast version of this podcast, not the live YouTube version. If you haven't checked us out on YouTube quite yet, hey, we're here. We got our channel, 3-Man Weave. If you're following us on Twitter at 3MW_CBB, you can find the links to our shows every single week, usually on Wednesdays, usually at 1:30 p.m. Central. Come join us. I don't know, get to see our faces. Join the chat. We like to interact with people during the show and, talk about whatever's on your mind in addition to our prepared thoughts. Leave us reviews if you would on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, whatnot. I will read them on air. You can ask questions. It's a lot of fun. Jacob Corder says, best CBB podcast. Started listening back when the Zags beat Duke in 2019. Wow. And have not missed an episode since. That's fantastic. 2 questions from Jacob. Number 1, I'm doing a project talking about who would have won the 2020 NCAA tournament if it happened. Can I use your final bracket for this project and ask each of your opinions on the matter? Yes, of course. Permission granted.
I'll have to talk to my lawyers. I don't know if I'm allowed to permit that, but Kai, you can take your takes.
You talk to your lawyers about that, Matthew. Your lawyers are very nice, good people. Number 2, St. Mary's is crushing opponents while my Zags have been in close affairs seemingly every game. Now, unfortunately, we are podcasting after this review was written, but he says, more likely to happen on Saturday, Zags win by less than 2 possessions or St. Mary's wins by double digits. Well, we know what happened. It was a close game, overtime. Good job by the Gales, Jim. Stuff to add?
Let's re-answer this question about the meeting in Spokane now. It's 2 weeks away still, but what's more likely? St. Mary's, Gonzaga keeps it close, or St. Mary's win by double digits? I mean, obviously at Gonzaga, it's more likely that Gonzaga wins there. But Matt, here, I'll reframe it like this. Does St. Mary's win out until then? They've got at LMU, at Portland, I believe one other road game.
San Diego, BYU at home, and then they'll smack Pacific, and then they'll probably enter. I think they might lose to LMU actually tomorrow. It just seems like kind of the ultimate letdown spot after just beating the Zags at home. If they can get past those pesky hot shooting Lions, I think they enter that game undefeated and then lose at Spokane.
Yes, I do think Zags take them there, but we'll find out. Second review, last review, longtime listener is the username. Best college basketball show out there. Love the weave. Fantastic. Contrary to popular opinion, he's satisfied with the 1 episode per week format. Makes every Wednesday a little bit more special. I love that. Fantastic. He also has a wild stat for us that he discovered himself. Maryland, as of February 2nd, 2023, that's Groundhog's Day for those unaware, is 15-2 when they score more than 21 points in the first half. 0-5 when they score less than 21 points. Yes, they have scored less than 21 points 5 times this season in the first half. That's crazy. He asks, are they a sleeper in the Big Ten / NCAA tournament as long as they don't come out flat in the first half? Matthew, you say yes?
Yeah, I'm just trying to speak my Big Ten Maryland future into existence. But no, I do like this Maryland team. It kind of gives me a lot of the same vibes as the 2021 team. Mark Turgeon's last year, kind of an under the radar, snuck by people, competitive, won first round, and then they played Alabama, who was just a buzzsaw at that point. So I think a similar trajectory is potentially on the cards here for the Terps.
I disagree fairly strongly. I think Kevin Willard has shown this over and over again. He's won 1 NCAA tournament game with similar talent at Seton Hall. And Kai, to add to this stat, Guess how many points Seton Hall scored in the first round of the tournament last year?
21.
21. Not a joke. That is
that?
Exactly how many they scored. Guess how many they scored in the first half of the Big East tournament game that they lost?
Please be 21.
It was 18. So
Okay.
sub 21. But like, this is a Willard thing. This isn't a this year's Maryland thing. I worry about their long-term viability because of that.
Offensive styles, man. College basketball. It's what makes the sport great. Don't put a shot clock. Don't put 24 shot clock, please. No, thank you. Personal corner. We all know Matt's in Florida, but Matt, are you going to the FAU game this weekend? Are you going to check it out?
I'm getting ghosted by the SID, Jim. So text your boy and tell me. Actually, let me check my email. I could have missed a response today. I'm not sure. No, but he's not going to back to me. I intend to go, whether it be as a patron or as a official media member. But hopefully, I'll see the Owls smoke the who are they playing again? Oh, Louisiana Tech. So should be fun.
Yeah, in my experience, Matt, they tend to respond pretty late towards game time. He's got another game beforehand. He's putting his ducks in a row, probably. Who knows? All right, that does it. Hey, check out our site, 3-man-weave.com. We have a link to buy shirts on the site if you want. They're cool. They're from Home Field Apparel. Home Field's cool. We'll do an ad for them pretty soon. Let's get into Roots Roundup and start the show.
Let's do it. We're talking news and notes here. But before we do, we got to give a shout out to Home Field, of which I don't think any of us are wearing any gear right now.
I am.
Kai is. Boom. That's my marketer right there, Kai. Give a shout out to Home Field.
Home Field Apparel. I am wearing a Gonzaga shirt courtesy of Home Field. You know, I got it for Christmas, guys. That's my Secret Santa gift every year. I tell my Secret Santa person, I say, hey, go to Home Field, pick out any shirt on the website and buy it for me. That's it. That's all they do. It's fantastic. It's a great way to accumulate cool clothing because Home Field makes the best college-related clothing in the entire world. They have 100 schools at least on their website you can choose from. They just released Duke. They're re-releasing some old schools. Some new designs are coming out. I know Georgia Tech, NC State, and I want to say who is it? Florida State, I believe, are the schools this week getting a redux to their lineup. They're fantastic. Everything they make is fantastic. Very comfortable, very soft. Very stylish, very sexy. Yes, even sexy. Homefieldapparel.com is where you can buy these sexy shirts, and you can get 15% off your first purchase with the promo code 3MW. That's Homefield. Wear one for the team. Jim.
Well done, Kai. I don't know if I want the sexy angle slipping in there, but hey, that's what happens when you go off script. That is a rogue Kai in the wild there.
Yeah.
All right, coaching news, guys, we have to talk Boeheim. We almost should have just a segment of what did Jim say this week. And this week it was that everybody else is buying teams and he hates the state of the sport. And I quote, "This is an awful place we're in CBB. Pittsburgh bought a team. Okay, fine. My big donor talks about it, but he doesn't give anyone any money. Our guys make like $20,000. Wake bought a team. Miami bought a team. That's really where we are, and it's only going to get worse." End quote. All right. First of all, yes, everyone knew Miami bought a team. That was about as public as any sort of NIL deal has ever been. Secondly, Wake didn't buy a team at all. And Boeheim had to walk this back like immediately, like the next day, said some sort of half-hearted apology. Ultimately, Kai, if he's this grumpy about everything, why is he still doing this?
I don't know, man. He's in the news every single week. And sure, part of that is the media putting it out there, but he's also just saying these crazy takes. Buying a team, man, it's NIL. This is what's part of. I love the response. I wish I could credit this guy, but he said, how much did Carmelo Anthony cost back in 2003? And that's a great response. Like, oh, you got him for nothing? Really? Okay, sure, Jim. Wink, wink, wink. He needs to retire, as we've said every single week on this podcast.
Also, $20K. Not too shabby. I would have taken that as a 21-year-old. Yeah.
Yeah, right. No kidding. Plus a full ride, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. It's fine. If you're going to be this, like Izzo's kind of the same way. If you hate what the sport is becoming this much, let someone else have the job that actually wants to do it and isn't going to just sit here and complain about it and try to talk down the version of the sport that, sorry, people still enjoy. All right, Jimmy B. Just keep giving us nuggets, though. As long as you're there, let us talk about you in this segment every single week. Very little happening in recruiting news unless you are an Auburn fan. War Eagle, big week. Grabbed 2 top 100 recruits at the point guard spot. 5-star Tahad Pettiford, 4-star LeBaron Philon. Might be getting that pronunciation wrong. But they're one of them 6'1", one's listed at 6'4". Seems like they can play together. Matt, is this the next Jared Harper, Bryce Brown backcourt for the Tigers.
I hope so. I don't like the version, we tried to do the same version with this rendition of guards. It just doesn't have the same Jared Harper, Bryce Brown, although they don't grow on trees. Hopefully this little duo fell off the Jared Harper and Bruce Brown tree. That'd be fun.
Yeah. Hopefully. I mean, I'm sure a 5-star isn't going to stick around for 4 years the way it was Harper. Harper might have been 3, but I do kind of like that team when they have just outrageous shot making in the backcourt, because right now they take the same shots, but they can't make any of them. It's an issue for the Tigers. Right. Very little happening in transfer news, but injuries. We've got 3 bad news, 1 good news. So there is some happy spin here. Maywat Mag from Rutgers is out for the year. Torn ACL always hits me hard when I read that. Just sad stuff. Rutgers, not a very deep team, Matthew. The on-off stuff paints him as rather important. Going to be a lot of Derek Simpson minutes now. They don't have the same kind of wing depth. They could throw Andre Hyatt in for anybody off the bench and keep the same identity. Now he has to start, and it's just a little bit too thin for me. Are you worried about them long-term, Matthias?
Yeah, I am. These teams that aren't in the elite recruiting talent pool that have to develop or, cobble together a roster and then make the most of it. There's just not a lot of margin for error, right? You're seeing this with Colorado State, with Wyoming, coaches that we really like. Talent's good, not great. Just tough to get a lot of talented guys to build a depth on a roster that can be immune to injuries. So it's just unfortunate. But I'm sure Pike will have those boys compete.
And speaking of Wyoming, that is the team we must discuss here, as Graham Ike is announced out for the entire season. He's redshirting. Noah Reynolds also out for the year due to his 3rd concussion of the season. And they just booted all 3 Pac-12 transfers off the roster. Anderson, Agbong Polo, and Jake Kyman. That was the big reason people were hyped on them. They're adding a talent level and depth to the roster last year with the Stars. Kai, it's been a completely lost year for the Cowboys. I feel bad for Linder, because the quotes, he's always just just every day is a new kick in the nuts.
Terrible. It's absolutely terrible, Jim. Feel bad for him. That's a team a la New Mexico this year to target next season in the gambling space. I think he'll have the program back on its feet and they won't be hurt. It'll be great.
Yeah, this year's version of New Mexico. Yeah, yes. We're okay, they had a way down year for that coach's ability. Mm-hmm. I think we'll see them trend right back up. Kai, already given away gambling tidbits for next year. That's at you go.
Well, I got to sprinkle in a few here, Jim. Yeah, why not?
Last bad injury to mention, Avery Anderson out for the year for Oklahoma State. Brutal for them, right as they get Musa Cisse back from his ankle issue. I believe Anderson has a wrist problem that required surgery and is almost certainly done. They've been surging, look like they're right on the fringe of the at-large discussion, but we'll see if they're able to get all the way over the hump without Anderson. I actually thought he was really important for them, and see if they can survive his absence.
He had been playing with that, so I feel like they've just kind of they've been fine with him not being 100%, so I think they'll be fine without him. I mean, Asprey was amazing last game, but hopefully they can withstand. That team's been awesome lately. Jesus.
Yep. Really, really good. Just kind of figured out a new identity. Caleb Boone, I'm telling you, look at the stats. This guy's been
Caleb
ridiculous.
Boone. Yep.
And in the positive news, Jonathan Chama Chachua is back less than a year after his gruesome injury. I don't really understand how. He had 2 different surgeries. He had severed the nerve in his knee. They thought he might never walk without a limp again. The surgeon, when he read his MRI, started crying because he's I can't believe that I'm going to have to tell this guy his career's over. But nope, he has worked all the way back. The ACL is repaired. Everything is good to go. This is as good a feel-good a story as you will find, Kai. I'm so pumped about it. I teared up reading the story.
Yeah, amazing. The human body, man. Whew. Incredible stuff. JTT, congratulations, man. Way to see you. Good to see you back on the court.
Big time. And for Baylor, actually might really raise their ceiling. A team that we have been very in on the guards all season, but have had some concerns about the defense. He could really shore up some of the issues. Much more versatile defending big man than Ojin Wuna, the freshman. Big time for them if he's able to give them 20 minutes a game going forward. Other news to discuss here, Kai, just the Reddit stat of the day. That's what we're going to do. We're going to wrap up wrap up Roots Roundup fairly quickly.
We got 2 of them, Jim. First one's from Walker Harris 3 on Reddit. Tyree Appleby breaks the ACC single game free throws made and free throw attempts record with 23 out of 28 made free throws against UNC. Wow. 28 attempts to 23 made. Said that wrong, but
he had like 15, and then UNC played the foul game for the final 100 seconds. Like they fouled him at least 6 times in the final 90 seconds. That's how you get an extra 12 attempts, Matthew. And Matt, there was the other stat too. I think we mentioned it on a show. Monsanto being the only ACC player in the last 30 years to be as prolific and efficient from deep as JJ Redick. Over 70 makes at this point, and over 40%. Only 2 ACC players, Monsanto and Redick. Not bad.
Wow.
That's why Wake's going over all the time, Kai.
Wake's been a haven for just like individual studs. Like, look at last year with what Alondas Williams did. There are some monster stat lines from other dudes, even throughout this year and last. Like Forbes really just opening up the kimono to all things fun offense.
Opening up the kimono. There it is.
Very good,
that phrase.
Thank you.
Yes. And Kai, and the other Reddit stat of the day.
The Reddit stat of the day number 2, go to my profile, is the username. Good username. Smart. Louisville falls to 3-21, the most losses in a season in the program's 109-year history. They did it. Hashtag pain. Very good.
Yeah, that is a season of pain. It's just his name's not coming to me. The Louisville writer that live tweets loyally every single game. Rutherford.
Rutherford, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's just guy. Like this descending sadness where he's like, "Why am I doing this again? I can't believe it." It's gotten to the point where I'm actually going to be rooting for them next year. It can't be this bad.
Yeah, as we've said, they've actually been worse, I think, lately than people realize. It's like we got the fatigue of Louisville sucking set in about like early January, and then like they've still been really bad. No one's talking about it anymore, but there's been nothing in the right direction there.
Yeah, man. It's bad news. But that is it. That wraps up Roots Roundup. Kai, let's go to you for our next segment.
Our next segment is We've Saw That. If you're not familiar, we're just reminding you folks at home or letting you know for the first time about some stuff that happened in the past week that we think is worth mentioning, worth talking about. Let's get into it. Keenan Blackshear for Nevada made a game-winning, mid-range, contested buzzer beater to down New Mexico at the pit. How about them Pack, Matthew? How about them Pack?
We need a name for the Steve Alford, and fittingly for this discussion, against New Mexico, Richard Pitino, coaches that are like really good in like the mid to upper major spectrum. Like they kind of they bite at the big boy apple, didn't quite work out, but I think are underrated at this level. And that was a really good game, and 2 coaches I like where they're at, and I hope they stay there for a while, Kyle.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, why don't you workshop a name for us, Matthew?
That there's a chance that buzzer beater was not just winning a game; it was a punching a bid.
Ceiling. Yes.
Big time Q1 road win for a team that was right on that bubble cusp.
Good. UNC, the Tar Heels, lost its 3rd straight game. They're now 7-6 in the ACC. They spent 45 minutes in the locker room post game. Baycott Jim told reporters that he told his guys if they don't want to be there, just quit. Don't show up next practice. Your thoughts?
I like the kind of just angry vibe about it. And he isn't really a guy I watch that I want to fault their effort on, but his guards certainly have that issue. I think he had a quote that was like, "This isn't what we came back for," as though like Caleb Love was a surefire first round pick, but opted for this over.
Yes, all of them first round offers.
Yeah, maddening stuff. Love ended up having an okay game. Took at the box score. He scored a bunch, but he took 25 shots. He was 0 for 9 in the first half, just like completely useless as they got down 20. That kind of tends to be the issue with them. They've almost got the Auburn freedom, those guards. Just take whatever pull-up jumper you want, 2, 3, early in the shot clock, late, whatever.
Right.
And that's not good when Baycott could score 40 against single coverage.
Yeah, they have the Auburn thing without Auburn's like vaunted interior defense, right? So like Auburn can I think overcome it. We saw them almost beat Tennessee with that formula while they couldn't score anything. Obviously Tennessee's defense is like elite by historical standards, but yeah, UNC's identity is what it is. It's the same thing for 2 years, right? They got hot for a little run, whoop-de-doo. Caleb Love got hot. RJ Davis got cooking. I think Baycott was like, while my ankle's hobbling, I'm going to let those dudes kind of carry me a little bit, sort of, carry what's already a large plate off my shoulders. But now he's just like, all right, I'm sick of this. I'm tired of watching guys gun and shoot me out of games when I damn well know I'm the most dominant player every time I step on the floor. And he probably is.
Yeah, for sure. I do have an extended thought in 3-man thoughts on the ACC. We can bash them even more in that section. Number 3, Paul Mulcahy is the latest player to join Tripgate. Matt, he Grayson Allen TJD last night.
Oh, he dirty, but he my boy.
It was pretty blatant. Your thoughts as an Indiana fan?
No, I mean, it obviously was disgustingly dirty, but I've been a Paulie Mack defender since day one, so I'm not going to abandon ship now as he's kind of blossomed into a massive cog on the best Rutgers team ever assembled. But yeah, no, he's kind of a punk. And he is like villain number one, I think, in the Big Ten right now.
This was Hunter Dickinson out of my perceived character of Paul Mulcahy. That's what I'll say. No, he has never given me the vibes of he wouldn't dare do this. He's a competitor that toes the line.
I want to see Paulie Mack guard Kirk Kissa. If Arizona Rutgers ever play off, that's going to be hands are being thrown by halftime, guaranteed. Lock.
Yeah, there will be a lot of statements shouted at the refs, shouted at each other.
Headbam slingshots back and forth. It'll be a vicious fight.
We definitely skewered Grayson Allen when he did this, and this is bad. Don't do this. If he becomes a repeat offender the way Allen was, we'll have he should be suspended if he does this again. So yeah.
He deleted his Twitter account, Jim. Is that true?
He sure did. Yep. Not out there. I'm sure Indiana fans are going after him, calling him dirty and other poor names.
Probably, yes.
But don't do this. Don't trip people. I don't understand that instinct. I've never had that thought, Kai. So
I agree. I've never felt the need to blatantly try to hurt somebody on a basketball court. That's not, I don't know. I think you got to have a screw loose to do that.
Indiana fans are the worst on Twitter. What? Stop.
They're among
they don't even like their own team.
Right. It's just
as other players.
Man. Yeah, they hate their right. Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Green Bay, number 4 here, takes down Milwaukee in overtime. Ziegler hit a desperation 3 to send it to OT in the first place. And Jim, postgame, Bart Lundy, coach of Milwaukee, apologized to fans, said he should have fouled up 3. Yeah, no expletive, Bart. You should have fouled up 3. Come on, Jim.
I thought you muted yourself there. I was like, wow, that was a good.
That was actually really good. That was very good.
we're not an explicit podcast. I don't want to cuss too much.
I thought we were actually. I thought we had that tag on the official.
Debatable.
We don't have it. We can't add it. It'd be kind of weird to this late in the game, but
just go profanity laced products. I would say.
Jim, Green Bay somehow ended their 14-game losing streak here when they couldn't beat IUPUI. They beat Milwaukee. Your thoughts?
It is a rivalry, so I think maybe that helped throw the records out. We've had some Delaware State comes to mind, where a terrible Delaware State team has somehow beaten Delaware. Matt, they play your Oakland boys tomorrow night, Thursday. I think Green Bay gets absolutely run out of the gym in that.
I agree. 100% agree. In general, Kai, Milwaukee is a team that's really well coached, not all that talented. I think those types of teams are maybe more prone to upsets, overachieving. You get into a slog where you're like, oh crap, this game's closer, and then you don't really have the talent to overcome it. And I don't know, just kind of a weird developing hypothesis I have as I think about this game, which makes no sense to me.
Hey, coaches, foul up 3. It's
also
pretty obvious. I don't know how many times you need to see buzzer beaters go in and overtime forced. I don't know.
The numbers say it's even, so it's not an obvious decision.
I've yet to really see that backfire. Knock on wood. I've not.
I think it's just coaches don't trust their own kids to do it correctly. Is that, which I think goes back to you need to prioritize in practice. Get to a point where you're comfortable with it. Yeah.
Yes. Next point. Rayshon Taylor, SIUE. Yes.
St. Louis zone, baby.
They're getting a new logo, by the way, SIUE. I saw it. It's not that exciting. It kind of looks like EIU, to be honest. He hit a 3/4 court shot to beat Little Rock at the buzzer. Awesome. They tried to throw it deep, couldn't get it in. It was just Taylor alone in the backcourt, which, by the way, what are you doing? Pick up full court, Little Rock. And then Taylor just chucked it, and he made it. Good for him. Good for SIUE. Incredible.
Yeah, getting back on track. They had that little losing streak. Team we thought was maybe going to win the very poor OVC. And now they're back in the running, Matthew, although for OVC future purposes, go Moorhead. Right, Kai? Go Moorhead.
Absolutely. Go Moorhead. Yeah, how about that? It's looking decent now. Knock on wood.
Quick shouts to Christoph Kendrick, assistant on that staff, Ryan Baroni, brother of my buddy, Emil Kendrick, boys at IU. Big ups there.
Speaking of EIU, Kenyon Hodges, we talked about this a little bit on one of our other shows. He slapped a fan, or tried to slap a fan, sitting courtside. Matt, you saw this.
I saw it.
What do you think?
And it was the most bizarre thing I've ever seen watching a game. And he was suspended, unsurprisingly, as this was disciplined internally and did not play the following game as the IU blew a late lead to Tennessee State there. Just not a good basketball team. Can understand the frustration Mr. Hodges playing on a team that's just kind of been in the dregs of that conference since Mr. Simmons arrived. I don't know what the actual backstory was. I think there was some Twitter stuff that confirmed it, but I didn't go down that rabbit hole. I'm taking the Paul Mulcahy abstaining from Twitter approach currently. So that's my blueprint.
Yes.
You fired Jay Spoonhour for going 9-18 the last year, 311th in Ken Palm.
Yep.
And now they're 12-44, 6-24 in league play with Simmons. That is be careful what you wish for. And we were always sticking up for Spoonhour because they were wrecked by injuries.
Yeah.
And I think Larrañaga has become the poster child of don't overreact to 2 years of injury prone ball, because it's a good coach. He's a good coach. Miami had those down years where they were like 100th in Ken Palm and boom, Elite Eight. And now they're back among top of the ACC.
Margin for error at that level is so thin. Like three big injuries and everything can unravel so quickly.
Absolutely. There's no perspective anymore, Matt. There's no nuance.
No, none. No. Kids.
We talked about St. Mary's Gonzaga a little bit, but if you didn't see that game, Aiden Mahaney, St. Mary's, is he a freshman? Freshman guard?
Yep. Freshman.
Yes.
Nearly beat Gonzaga by himself. And some of the photos on Twitter, there's I think it's Stephen Carr, I believe. He's a Gonzaga fan on Twitter. He posted some of these still shots of Mahaney's running hook shots, basically. Incredible shot making by him. He is incredibly fun to watch. Him and Marchulionis are fun to watch.
I was losing my mind on the stretch of this game because I had not hedged my St. Mary's to win the WCC future. And man, he just made like ridiculous play after ridiculous play. Hadn't passed for a while because he'd been finishing over double coverage. And then for the game time bucket, dish off down. Oh man, what a performance. I think coming in, it's like, all right, 4-star, borderline top 100 guy. Probably has a higher upside than Tommy Kuzi, but holy cow, he realized that upside very quickly, Matthias.
Yeah, just a quick humble brag I talked to Randy Bennett for the Almanac preview this offseason. I kind of teed up the Mahaney thing. I think I talked to him just after the foreign tour where Mahaney was starting to get some buzz. And Bennett's like the most like chill, cool cucumber, close to the vest type of dude. And he was like so hard trying not to like gush about Mahaney. He was sort of like just sit back and watch. We got something good here. He didn't say it, but like that was sort of the message he set subliminally. And I was like, okay. And sure enough, here he is just dominating WCC.
I love that. And Jim, there were 2 40-point performances worth noting.
We got to give him a shout out. I feel like that's a good part of this section to respect unreal individual performances. Zeke Mayo for South Dakota State, a guy we were really high on preseason that then struggled maybe with too big of a burden at times in the non-con. He had 41 in a rivalry game against North Dakota State on Saturday. Rather impressive there. And then Azuolas Tubelis of Arizona, 40 against Oregon last Thursday. I think somebody in the chat said, what a quiet 40-point performance.
It was.
Like if Edey or TJD had 40, people would lose their minds. Yep. And this is also a first-team All-American guy doing it. And it's like brought up, but it's not the same kind of thing. And it's because it's Pac-12 after dark, Kai. That's what
Pac-12. That's what it is. This is my theme and my thought coming up. I agree. I like just the unfortunate nature of playing on the West Coast where no one sees you and no one talks about you. It's very real.
Yeah, he's also very mild-mannered, Tubelis. Like he doesn't really say a word. And it was Kirk Kriisa in the presser was basically speaking for him after the 40-point performance. It's pretty funny. That does it for We've Saw That. We're going to get into 3-man thoughts, some more individual thoughts about really anything in the world of college basketball. Let's talk coaching to start us off here. And I'm going to go to Matt first to precede Jim's first thought here. Matthew, why don't you take us away with a little coach thought here?
I think we have discussed many times on this podcast, other shows, about our disdain for fans wanting to pull the plug on a coach that hasn't had success. You know, this is obviously what have you done for me lately type of, world which we live in. People have distorted views on what their team or alma mater program should be. And we always say, be careful what you wish for. And, the grass isn't always greener on the other side, AKA the grass isn't always greener with whoever you're going to bring in. However, I think we talked about this before. It's like the talent, the depth of talented coaches that are coming up through, the traditional paths, but then also kind of the non-traditional paths, the D2, the JUCOs. I think that crop of hiring pool is like, it's almost like how like the tech industry now just fire a bunch of people. So like people are saying like they're going to be like a lots of smart people that'll be employed in the next 6 months. I kind of have flipped my entire tune and like, you know what? if you have a coach you're not really sure about, there's a lot of good coaches out there, and take a shot. And look what happened in the SEC, where we debated ad nauseum over like, oh, Jerome Tang versus Todd Golden versus Dennis Gates versus Chris Chan. It's like, well, they're all just good. They've all been upgrades, and you can kind of extend that narrative all throughout the entire country. However, I thought all through that. Then I looked at Mr. Goodman's top 10 mid-major coaching spotlight coming into the year. And you look at that list, and a lot of those guys haven't really done that well this season for some misfortune, external reasons, injuries. You look at like Jeff Linder at Wyoming, Nico Medved at Colorado State, injury-ridden teams. Yep. But in general, I think my main theme narrative holds here is if you're in that boat, yeah, there's a lot of good coaches out there. So I'm kind of more sympathetic, Jim, to the irrational fan on insert fan forum that's calling for the head of their coach, because I do think if you have a competent AD and you have a good search process, odds are you're going to find a pretty good guy out there.
Agree. And I kind of think this is the same. I feel this way often with like coordinator hires in the NFL and stuff. Like, I want to see the young gamble over the retread of average. Like,
yep.
Yeah, there's a different way to look at this. Like, some of the retreads, I say that in quotes, retreads hired, like Archie Miller, we know he can win in the A10, and like maybe he didn't, carry that over to the Big Ten, but hiring him back at an A10 job, I'm okay with that. Although,
yeah, put Archie in the back to my tie back to initial point, Jim, the Steve Alford maybe, or the Rich Pitino, right?
Pitino, yep. And like, look, Travis Ford hasn't got where SLU fans probably want him to get to, but he's done a pretty solid job. They've been the top of the A10 over and over. They just haven't won it and gotten the at-large bid that people might want. But look, you're not going to find Rick Majerus hanging on trees. Like, that's just doesn't work that way. I think you can find good coaches out there too. I'm with you.
That's all I have, Kai. But I'm going to tee it up to Jimbo, because we're going to dive into some of those names I just mentioned.
Yep. Jerome Tang is probably the first name off people's tongue when we're talking national coach of the year.
Yes.
And that's what we're going to discuss a little bit here. We've got a month left. Haven't really talked about it on the pod. I think this is a decent time to check in. I mean, there's plenty of ways you can describe what Tang has done, but they're all going to sum up to incredible, massively exceeding expectations, pretty unanimously picked last in the Big 12. We were very skeptical of the roster in general, took over a program that was rather, moribund, struggling, just not doing well. And here they are in line for like a 3 or a 4 seed, totally revitalized. Bramlage has been one of the best home court advantages this year. Jerome Tang, definitely a worthy candidate. Few others that I think just need to be mentioned, and I'm going to make Matt and Kai kind of come up with their top 3. Give me a top 3 ballot. Shaka Smart at Marquette, picked to finish 9th in the Big East. Yeah, and one top 100 recruit on the roster, and he's now 10th nationally in KenPom. That's rather high over expectations. Randy Bennett of St. Mary's, easily the best team in that team's history. Lost the senior point guard, lost their best big man inside. They've only gotten better. Matt Painter at Purdue, obviously. I wonder if Zach Edey's campaign for National Player of the Year is going to overshadow Painter's Coach of the Year. We'll see how that pans out. Nate Oates at Alabama. Mid-level SEC team is now a definite 1 seed. Not bad. TJ Otzelberger. How is this team better than last year? I don't understand that. Yeah. That is ridiculous. Just a fantastic job in 2 years he's done there. And then you've got, like Matt said, Dennis Gates, I think, is in there. Steve Peichel at Rutgers is in there. Jeff Capel, Brad Butnell have definitely exceeded expectations, especially as they've been on the hot seat. Even more maybe impressive with that glaring eye on them. And then Dusty May of FAU. Have to bring up this. It's almost like a career coach of the year or like tenure of the year, considering the best season in school history before he got there was 21 wins. They finished 186th in KenPom back in 2011. That was their best ranking, 186th. And in his 5 years, they've been 162nd, 191st, 181st, 129th, and 33rd. Like 4 of his 5 years have been the best year in the history of the school. This is easily the most wins they've ever had. Just got to at least give him like a special acknowledgement. He should be the mid-major coach of the year for sure.
Yeah. Pat Kelsey obviously has a good case, but I think May has just been better. Like, I mean, it's hard to contextualize. Like FAU, I don't know a ton about the program, but I know it's like a commuter school in Boca Raton, which is like a retirement community for, it's not like a desirable place to get kids to go. And he's sort of built that into mini power this year. My vote would be Tang, Kai, I think. I think you have to go Tang. All right, had to go Tang. There's two segments here, right? It's the elite coach who's kind of gone for like, the top end program who's really gone to the elite scale, which is like Purdue, Matt Painter, Oates, Alabama, versus like the kind of overachieving group, which is like the Shaka Smarts, the Jerome Tangs, the Otzelbergers to a lesser extent. So it's kind of, you have to, where are you biased toward? What crop of coach? And you probably pick from that litter.
Yeah, it's Tang for me. It's got to be
2 and 3.
Pikel's up there too, Jim. Pikel's up there too. Pikel's been great. God.
I'm concerned how the last month will go for them.
Yeah, I agree.
And very not fair. Having depth is kind of on him for that, not building that out. Yes, Harry R. I think Jay Ladner can get a shout out at Southern Miss. Probably not going to register as much on the national scale, but fantastic job. Yeah, I will go Tang 1. I'm going to go Oates 2 and Shaka 3. I'll give Shaka number 3 there. That Marquette team, like, no one had an inkling that they would do this. I think even Marquette fans have probably had their expectations blown away.
Yeah, I'd probably go Tang, Shaka, Randy Bennett. Top 3.
Quick name harking back to my thought. Nevada Smith, the offensive guru that Smart brought in. I'm curious if they keep him, and if not, where he goes. Like, I think he's kind of the can't miss offensive mind. Jim, akin to your Sean McVay, young coordinator in the NFL type of thing. He's kind of in that cut from that same cloth.
Well, it's wild because he's like a special assistant, but he was a G League coach doing wild things with the Rio Grande Valley Vipers. And it's like, everybody is seeing this. This is on portrayal, and he's been able to, they've been able to retain him. I would imagine, yes, he gets a big gig, and then Shock is also given like a tip of the cap to McCollum, the Northwest Missouri State guy.
Yes, that's right.
The concepts as well. So I would expect to see McCollum for sure at the D1 level very, very soon, and Nevada Smith might get a job as well. That's it, Kai. To you.
To me, and as we kind of discussed a little bit in the chat, Player of the Year, my first thought is about the Player of the Year, and it's titled, Everyone Stop It. Zach Edey is the Player of the Year. All right, full stop. I love our field of 68 employers, but it's just a clickbait hot take thing to say TJD has a chance. It is Edey by every single metric, and we're going to go through it right now. Stats. Edey, 22.4 points per game. It's 4th in the country. He's the only power player in the top 15 from a power conference, and TJD is averaging 19.8. All right, Edey. 13.2 rebounds per game. It's 2nd in the country behind Oscar. TJD, 11. 2.2 blocks per game. Hey, not too shabby. Top 20. TJD hasn't beat here. 3.1 blocks per game. Okay, tip of the cap, TJD. Connor Vanover has more blocks per game than TJD, just letting you guys know.
I also like Edey's not all about blocks.
Hold on. Vanover's like a high schooler playing in like an elementary school, like JCCA league kind. So
my point is,
whatever.
Between 2 and 3 blocks per game doesn't really bother me, Jim.
And it's less about blocks with him. It's the deterral rate. People don't shoot at the rim. Like you look at the attempt rate at the rim and the finishing rate, like, just because he's not blocking the shot doesn't mean he's not making a guy shoot a runner or a floater like 15 feet off the ground because of the length. Mm-hmm. He's incredible at keeping his arms straight up. Our friend Pete texted me this. He thinks he has like the best upper body endurance in the country because he just never gets lazy and brings his arms down.
It's the St. Joe's Hawkeye. It's just like
the St. Joe's Hawkeye. It's a great comparison.
Field goal percentage, 62.7%, 14th in the country. TJD, 57.7. One-on-one, we saw Purdue, Indiana play each other. Indiana won. They're at home. Great spot. Edey, 33, 18, and 3 blocks in that game. TJD, 25 and 7, 5 blocks. Pretty good game. Not as good as Edey. Team success. Purdue leads everybody in the Big Ten by 3 games, including Indiana. Purdue is also in the top 5 of KenPom, top 5 of the AP poll. Indiana is not. KenPom Player of the Year award. Something, by the way, the voters are keenly aware on. They look at KenPom. Number 1, Edey. Number 2, TJD, but a significant margin behind when you look at the efficiency margin, whatever KenPom uses there. He also has 17 game MVPs per KenPom. The next highest is 13. TJD is 12. Betting markets, finally. Edey's now minus 1,200 to win the award. He was minus 2,000. I guess TJD took some money. That's an implied probability of 92.3% to win the award. Minus 1,200. Wilson, by the way, is still the second favorite, plus 1,400. TJD, 22-1. In conclusion, Zach Edey's going to win the Player of the Year award, and he very much should. That ends my TED Talk, Joe.
Yeah, agreed. Edey missed 1 game. TJD's missed 3. TJD had some issues with the wrist that really sapped his stats in the non-con. Like he had 11-5 and a blowout loss at Kansas. Mm-hmm. Like if Edey had a terrible game like that and a blowout loss, yeah, I think we'd count it against him. But I think the Big Ten run that he's been on is incredible. And closer to a Big Ten Player of the Year thing. But
yes,
full season National Player of the Year, I don't think he has a chance.
That's where I think if it's a Big Ten Player of the Year discussion, I think you can have a legit case for TJD. I'd still lean Edey by a nose. But yeah, when you bring in the non-con, Edey's dominance, especially against Xavier, right? He had 30-6 against Xavier. He was dominant against UNC. Kai, you were at that game. Or no, sorry, that was at Purdue. It was not the MTE. But so Edey had some more marquee moments during the non-con, and he's been awesome in big moments throughout conference play to, I think, give him that distance from TJD. TJD makes his teammates better because he's a better passer, but Edey makes his teammates better because he's so dominant that everyone has to collapse on him, and everyone else just has a wide open, green field of space to do what they want to do. I also TJD's sorting cast is better.
I think Edey's right. A pretty decent passer. Like he doesn't have the assist totals.
He is,
but like he's not a black hole in the post where if they just send doubles every time, he's lost. Like you can't send doubles every time because he's figured that out. So they try to change coverages and it just doesn't work.
In Big Ten,
I did think about this a lot, Kai. I did think about this a lot. So this is a close debate for Big Ten, but
Big Ten only stats. Edey #1 in scoring, Edey #1 in rebounding. In both.
Yeah, he's been good.
And his
more
team's
more than TJD
better
than both, and 3 games ahead. It's not even close to the Big Ten.
I don't think it's that much of a competition either.
Okay. I think the defensive impact is basically a wash. I think TJD's been that good defensively. I think it's pretty damn near close.
Okay, but
yeah, I'm just saying. I think that's a close comparison.
Here's the numbers, Matt. When Edey's on the floor, opponents take 10% less of their shots at the rim, and they make 10% less of the ones they take. Like it is very much like you can't score there. You're not going to do it just because he has less blocks.
Yeah, it's a manufactured debate because we need debate in apparently in the media.
Yep.
But hold on, Edey. Sorry, I have an Edey future. I think we all have Edey future tickets, so we
do all have Edey futures. Yeah, let's get those home. Okay. Next thought here. Going back to Matt. Little Pac-12 thoughts. Hey, why not?
Yeah, back to the Tubelis discussion on how no one saw a 40-point performance against Oregon. Like they played Oregon Central Tech or anything. Like it was the Oregon University had 40 against that front line. Arizona, UCLA, USC, and I'm calling this Pac-12 +1. I'm going to throw St. Mary's in here because we need to talk about St. Mary's a little bit. We really haven't discussed the Gales that much. 4 teams I think are going to be major dark horses in the tournament because no one's watching them play. The rest of the Pac-12 stinks and is basically falling out of NCAA contention. At this point, I think those are the only 3 projected teams in the field. I'm not sure where Utah sits or where who else is in the bracketologist help me out. Arizona State's kind of in the mix, but bubble, on the outside looking in right now. Just looking at these 3 teams, there's we talked about how the Pac-12 has been good in the tournament before, and I think all 3 of these teams have identities that are going to be built to go far and will be largely discounted because no one's seen them play because the league is A, on the West Coast, and B, has been bad again, which has been kind of a recurring theme for this conference. The development of Tubelis, as a passer and a playmaker, the way he handles in space, I think just lifts the ceiling of this team demonstrably. And I think kind of negates the issue that some people bring up when they're poo-pooing Arizona, which is I don't really trust the guards, which I think I've said that before too. And I know Kerr can be erratic. I have. Yeah, I think I've been the loudest critic of that. But I think just having a big that you can play inside out through and that he can kind of create sort of negates that risk for me. There's also a couple other guys stepping up there. I just like this Arizona team a lot. Their size is just different up front. UCLA, Amari Bailey's back. Just veteran adult guards in the backcourt and the young bigs, which has been my biggest question mark. Kind of the inverse of Arizona. I trust their development and I like what I've seen. And I think about who's coaching this team. It's it's Mick Cronin. He groomed every awesome front line in Cincinnati for 10 plus years. He's a big man whisperer. They're going to get better than they are. I would not sleep on them. And USC, I forgot that Owuchu was back. How do you say it? Iwuchukwu. I'm missing a syllable there. Just a 5-star prospect, not quite to the level of talent that Mobley or Okongwu was, but close to same pedigree. They have all kinds of length, and Enfield's been a sleepy and so a dark horse killer in years past, as much as we've given him slack, Mr. McKeon. And then St. Mary's, what is there to say at this point? Top 7 in Ken Palm, they've been awesome. I think that's almost just like 2 hours of a take. But I think all 4 of these teams are set up for second weekend, third weekend, potential Final Four runs. USC is more of a stretch, obviously, but I think
I'll take that bet against them making the second weekend.
I will bet you both right now. USC is a second weekend team.
All right, I'll take that board.
I'm in. How much you want to do?
With some odds. I can think about what a fair price for that is. Well, let's let someone respond on tomorrow's best bet show with a fair price for USC second weekends, and I think I'm going to like to take the Trojans.
I mean, at USC,
Enfield's made the second weekend twice. Once was with Gulf Coast as a 15, and once was with Evan Mobley, who was like a all rookie player immediately the next year.
Yeah,
but he's won multiple games more than that, Jim, because he was in the playing slot a few times. So you have to normalize for that too. I think it's a good team. Defensively, they're locked down. I kind of like the guards. So I can't stop saying that. I made fun of USC all offseason. Like, this team can stink. Their guards stink. It's like, I watch them play. They're pretty good
team, man. They always do well in the Pac-12. I don't think they're good.
I think they're
good.
They're
44th in KenPom. That's about where I have them nationally. Top 50.
I think they're closer to top 30, top 25 with dangerous potential because they're just so damn long. And if Ivo Chukwu gets awesome, like new level there. All right. Disagree.
Well, his first game he started, they beat Washington by 6. So maybe you're on to something.
He's not playing big minutes yet. He's still not 100% healthy. Are you guys buying USC? Do you have UCLA and Arizona in your current Final Four renditions?
Yeah, I have all year. UCLA.
Final Four? Arizona?
For UCLA and Arizona, yes, both those.
No, I have UCLA in the Final Four. I don't have Arizona in the Final Four.
Okay.
I think the guard play is still flawed. I love playmaking Tubelis when he's pick and pop, rolling down the left side of the lane. He's like unstoppable there.
He's amazing,
in the corner. But I still think there's some guard questions. Their guards aren't as good as last year's. And that team, came up short. Granted, it was a top 3 KenPom Houston team that they had to run into. But I still think there's a little bit of diciness with that Gonzaga, Arizona style play that's really transition reliant.
Fair. All right. That's all I have. Who goes farther, St. Mary's or Arizona? Kai, last question.
Arizona. They're going to be a 1 or 2 seed probably. Sure. St. Mary's be a 4-ish.
All right. That's all I have. Just some Pac-12 after dark thoughts.
Yeah.
Kai, we'll go to you. Keep it conference centric.
Okay, let's do that. We'll talk ACC, Jim. The ACC, so I was like, hey, is the ACC in danger of falling outside KenPom's top 6 conferences? And they are. They're 0.01 adjusted efficiency margin points ahead of the Mountain West right now. So I looked back and see the other examples of a Power 6 team falling outside of the Power 6. It's happened 4 times in KenPom's site history, going back 25-ish years. In 2019, we saw the Pac-12 finish behind the AAC. They finished 7th. In 2013, the Mountain West finished 4th ahead of the Pac-12, the ACC, and the SEC, who fell out of the top 6. In 2011, the SEC finished 7th behind the Mountain West. And in 2004, the Pac-10 finished 9th out of every single conference in the country. The Mountain West was 6th that year. So it's happened before, but it also should be a perspective of, oh, wow, this ACC is actually really, really bad this season. The traditional powers just haven't been good, obviously. UNC is turning to be out of the field. That would be the first preseason number 1 ever, 1985 poll era, to not make the tournament. They're tied 8th in the ACC at 7-6. That's pretty brutal. Duke has been limping along. They're 6th in the ACC at 8-5. Matt's boys don't look very good right now. No. And we talked about Louisville. They're 1-12, arguably the worst Power 6 season of all time right now. They're outside of the top 300. I don't think a team has finished that low in the Power 6. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Correct me. Oregon State, maybe.
Maybe. I don't know. I do like that Matt's up and down swings with Duke this year are like the truest.
Game to game, literally.
I'm a diehard fan of like, oh, my team lost, we're terrible, or we just won last one, watch out for us. Like it's fun. It's fun seeing like the real like I'm just a fan come through.
Because I make fun of those people all the time, so I'm just the biggest hypocrite out here. Kai, quick fact here. San Jose State would be favored over 6 teams in the ACC. Wow. 6. Even Fresno State is the worst team in this conference. They're better than Louisville. They're better than Georgia Tech. They're maybe better. Now they're not better than Notre Dame.
That's so crazy.
I like
that. But like it's
a
debate. It's a debate.
Yeah, the usual, going down the list still, the usual good teams here have struggled as well, right? For a couple of years. Notre Dame, 2-10. They're awful. Florida State, 6-7. They're 167th in the country. Syracuse is 7-6. There's no teams in the KenPom top 10 right now. Virginia at 14th is the only top 30 team right now in the ACC, only top 30, and only Miami and Duke are the other top 40 teams. Virginia Tech is the only other top 50 teams. That's 4 teams in the top 50.
Yeah, to 15, that's not a good ratio. Not a good ratio at all.
So why is this? Is it coaching? I that's kind of the scapegoat I'm pointing to. Hubert Davis is not a good coach. John Shire, he maybe gets another year because this is his first season. Duke is in striking distance, whatever. Kenny Payne is not a good coach or a program builder. I'm confident in saying that right away. I think Hamilton's probably just done at Florida State. Mike Bray's clearly done. He's retiring. Jim Boeheim's over the hill. Josh Pastner, it's probably time for him to move on. It's saying something when Capel and Pitt are at the top of the league, just how bad the coaching situation and the situation the ACC has gotten.
Yeah, Matt just did a whole thought about how the SEC turned over 6 coaches, and oh my gosh, it's a lot stronger. Maybe not at the very top. It's not like this elite national title contenders, but if the ACC wants to rebuild its middle, I think there needs to be better coaching hires.
House cleaning. And the SEC already had like maybe the best top to bottom crop of coaches before the offseason reset with those. And now it's just gotten even better. So yeah, you got to keep up with the Joneses for the ACC.
Yeah, look at bringing in ACC brought in Steve Forbes and Mike Young, and those are 2 of the better coaches in the league now. Like bringing these smart mid-major winners in, I think is the way to go.
Let's clean house, man. Yeah, get rid of 5 or 6 coaches in this league and clean house and get a changing of the guard in the league. That's what it needs.
Yes,
all right,
indeed.
To Jim for his last thought.
Yeah, this one's relatively quick. Just 3 teams I want to ask you guys whether they are fully back or not back, or if you want to sit on the fence. I suppose I'll let Matt do that as he is wont to do.
That's what I do, baby.
We're starting with UConn. They've won 4 out of 5. They just smashed Marquette last night. Kind of, Kai, you said it earlier, like this is Portland UConn.
Yeah.
Do you believe that version is back, or is that more of a one-off aberration and they've beaten some other bad Big East teams?
I don't know. I like to think they are. Just watching them, it's like, yeah, this is the exact team I saw in Portland. Look how scary they are. They beat Marquette by 15. That's really hard to do. And yeah, they're hot, but that's kind of part of it. They have shot makers that can do that. And if they're making shots, which this is an obvious statement, but it's not really that obvious. If they're making shots, you can't beat them. If other teams make shots, they can still be beaten. You can't beat UConn. They're too big or too physical. If they're hitting shots, it's not fair. So yeah, this team, I would say, Jim, is back tentatively.
I'm with Kai. I think they're back. I guess I never really thought they left entirely. I wasn't all the way buying like a fire sale when their struggles. Now you can talk me into not buying Dan Hurley in the tournament. That's a separate discussion, but just in terms of like, how good is this team and how good is the ceiling, I guess, what level will they play to the rest of the year? However you want to frame that. Yeah, I kind of think they are back. I'm in.
I'm not. I'm out.
Okay.
I'm still out. They hit a bunch of threes early with hands and faces. Jordan Hawkins like set the tone, like first possession of the game, hit a 3 with a guy hanging on him. And that was how it went. Sometimes teams can just bury you with shot making like that early. The one thing that I was really encouraged by was how badly they dominated the offensive glass. 58% of their misses UConn got against Marquette. Very clear physical advantage. We knew that would happen, but you combine that with shooting over 50% from 3. And yeah, that team's relatively unstoppable. We're going to talk about it in weekend preview, but I think UConn gets humbled on the weekend at Creighton.
UConn shot 59% from the free throw line too against Marquette, and wasn't even close. Like,
yeah, well, if they shoot 29% from 3 or even 35% from 3, we have a little bit of a different discussion. I believe it was a 3-point game per shot quality, Kai. So it wasn't
sure it was.
Well, there you go.
Totally some
I'm
insane
sure it was,
kind
Jim.
of blowout. Yep. Next question is Arkansas. They have won 5 of 6. They smashed Kentucky at Rupp Arena last night. This is kind of when Musselman always starts to figure it out. They've had this version of the team now for a little bit longer, Matt. The no Nick Smith, no Trevon Brazile. So are we buying Arkansas? Are they back as like a top 16 team, like a protected seed caliber?
Yeah, I kind of am, because I like the identity that Musselman's channeling, which is just like, we're going to bully you. Like, we got real size. The Mitchell twins have been awesome. Like, I made fun of them many a time, and they've been really good. Like, even Mikal, who was kind of, I think, the lesser thought of the two. I always forget which one was like the better player, but Mikal's been awesome. And with Anthony Black and Devo Davis, Black playing like a 5-star NBA lottery pick, and Devo Davis playing like the Devo Davis that's been hyped up for like 3 years running at this point. It's like, okay, that's 2 guards I trust. And I guess I have to believe Ricky Council's like an all SEC first teamer. I've been in denial of that for way too long now. It's kind of what he is. Jalen Graham's been better too. Yeah, I am. And I kind of like the new identity. It's working.
I'm not buying them. Nope. They're not built to make a run in the tournament, in my opinion. First off,
they're worse than last year's team. They're worse than the year before, but they're, I think, backish.
They're 7 seed tops right now. Like I don't see them they might get a 6, but they have to kind of win out. So their seed's going to be bad. They don't have the depth to make a run. I'm not a fan of the Mitchells. I understand they're playing well, but they're not guys you can rely on a given night. And also, you can't be this poor of a shooting team and go far in the tournament. They only took 9 threes against Kentucky. I know they got whatever they want inside the paint, but they really can't shoot. And that's a huge problem in the tournament. So I'm selling Arkansas.
The amount of times I've seen just a basic zone completely break their offense.
Yes.
If you don't turn the ball over against them, that is a big part of it. I do kind of buy what Matt's selling with a lot more double big lineups. They're getting like 60 minutes a game out of the two Mitchells and Graham, whereas for a while it was like 30 or 40 combined. So they're playing that jumbo lineup more. And those guys aren't like immobile, so they can still switch a bunch, which I think is relatively difficult to deal with. But I think the offense is definitely probably too limited to lead to a long, extended postseason run. Last one is Iowa. This is a team that, remember, had the worst loss in the country, a Q5 home loss to Eastern Illinois, and didn't really follow that up with mega impressive performances, but they have now won 7 of 9, including a road win at Rutgers. That certainly raises the eyebrow. Several impressive home wins too. Chris Murray's healthy. Pat McCaffrey's back in the lineup. Do you buy Iowa, or how much do you buy where they're at right now?
I buy that they're a fantastic offensive team, and I also buy that they are still one of the worst defensive teams that will make the NCAA tournament. And Fran McCaffrey has never made a Sweet 16 ever. So I will be fading them in the tournament. We'll say that.
I think I agree, Jim. I was starting to go back and look through all of Fran's early tournament exits. Like, was each one of those like just a tough draw, or is there just like a common theme of this type of DNA is just more likely to put you at risk of an early exit? I love how you were using the Bart Torvik matchup tool to kind of look at Virginia as a sort of parallel here. I wonder if you looked at Iowa, if there's something, obviously you'd probably just find Iowa in the same comps as Iowa, but like if there's something really to this extremely lopsided DNA and not being more risky to early bounces, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, part of the not making a Sweet 16 is seeding. He's only had a seed above like a 5. He's had a protected seed once. And that the year they were a 2, they had to play Oregon, who had a bye in the first round.
They got screwed. They got screwed. For sure.
VCU did not was not able to play due to COVID. So that was the one I'd say exception to where I'll give Fran some credit. But like last year, you win 4 straight in the Big Ten tournament, and then you lose to Richmond, who was having an underperforming year. Like I don't want to continue to give him passes for never once getting all the way to that Sweet 16. So I'm relatively out on them postseason too. I just think the defensive issues show up a lot in the postseason.
Yeah, 2016 they played Villanova. Who's beaten Villanova that year? No one beat Villanova that year. 2019 they lost to Tennessee in overtime. I don't know. I think there's a little bit of circumstantial bad luck there too. So I might even buy in on Fran this year's tournament. I might be the ultimate contrarian guy and just take Iowa deep. Just ride the offense all the way.
Good luck.
And probably get
good
burned.
luck.
And probably get burned.
All right, that's it. That wraps it up. Kai, back to you for a little weekend preview to close it out, I believe.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's talk about 3 games right quick for this weekend, as we normally do. We're going to start with that UConn-Creighton game that Jim alluded to. Jim did say in our super secret group chat that he will be looking to fade UConn in this spot against Creighton, presuming that UConn beats Marquette. I assume also that Creighton, whatever, with Seton Hall doesn't really matter. Creighton's tough at home. Projected spread -1 for Creighton. Probably a pick, something around there, whatever you weigh. Actually, I bet Creighton takes money here, Jim. But yeah, what are your thoughts here? Is it just spot?
Yeah, spot. And I think Creighton can kind of defend against what UConn does. Some of that offensive glass pounding. I think Kaluma and Kalkbrenner can hold up inside a little bit. I don't expect Sonogo to overwhelm. I believe he's had some pretty impressive performances against Kalkbrenner 1v1 in the past. UConn fans have shouted about it, but at Omaha I just don't believe the shooting is going to be as scorching as it was in that big home environment against Marquette last night. And I think Creighton's just way more on an upward trajectory, Matt, than UConn is right now, where UConn is maybe stabilized. Creighton's actually like definitely trending up. I like the Blue Jays here at 1 or 2. I will be laying it with Creighton.
It's unfortunate they have to go to Seton Hall, which could be so I'm recording this Wednesday tonight. That could be a brawl. You got 2 days off to go back and play another brawl back here against UConn. I know they're at home, but UConn with the extra day off kind of might give them an edge there, given Creighton might be in a rock fight Wednesday night. I still think Creighton's going to be the right side here. I think they win. You're right. Just the size they can negate up front and the way they're playing right now. Finally starting to see evidence of these guards blossoming into real potential stars with Nembhard and Alexander. And Shire. I mean, God, Alexander went off last time. I mean, he's like the guy I like the most when he's on. So a lot of options there, and the upside starting to manifest.
Yeah, Connecticut has turned into a whack-a-mole team for me, so I'll probably be not betting on this game. Worth noting, they took care of business against Creighton in game 1. Kalkbrenner, unsurprisingly, was pretty quiet in that game. I think UConn's size is a big, oh no, they're bigger than us type of thing for Creighton. But we'll see. Good spot for Omaha, or in Omaha, I agree. The next game, Baylor at TCU. TCU -1 for KenPom. We'll see where it actually is with Miles out of the lineup. Can see Baylor being favored in this one on the road. Now, TCU's been scrappy, Matt, without Miles. Do they get it done against Baylor at home?
I don't know. I'd like to have Miles in there. And I'm the guy who said this team's really, as you mentioned, I think they're fine without Miles, but they're awesome with him. At least they have that upside with him in there. I still think at home with the physicality that's what gets Baylor. We'll see how much Cha-Cha gives them. I'm not banking on anything there, but I think TCU at home with the physicality and the length is sort of a matchup edge here. Again, it's at home is the key theme here, right? And I mean, just feels like these spots at home, the home team usually gets it done.
Yeah, 2 matchup things here, Kai. I believe on one of our shows, you talked about how bad Baylor's transition defense is. And TCU leads the country in fast break points, or at least they did before Miles got hurt. They still kept the gas pedal down. Baugh and Wells can get going, and they're versatile wing forward guys. The Jacoby Coles, Micah Peavy, Emmanuel Miller, those guys are going to give Baylor problems. Basically the same way Timmy Allen did for Texas when Baylor switches everything and they get Adam Flagler guarding one of those guys in the post. I think there's actually some punishment potential there for TCU. I like Baylor a lot, and maybe just the lack of Miles is going to take away the ceiling raise for TCU, but I kind of like the matchup for the Horned Frogs, especially with them reeling, maybe a little bit of a buy low as well. Ted Spencer question in the chat, how healthy will Lampkin be? I don't know, man. Every time he gets out there, he can't walk. Like, he shouldn't be playing.
I think he got taken out and braced up and taken out of the game. I think he's iffy for Baylor game, which makes me worried about TCU.
Whenever he's in ball screen coverage, he literally limps to the level of the screen. It's he can't move, guys. Why is he out there?
Save him. Ironically, it reminds me of the TCU versus Arizona tournament game. They got a lot of hype last year where TCU almost picked off a hobbled Arizona team. Don't put yourself in a situation. Arizona Krisa was hurt and Tubelis was banged up. Don't put yourself in a situation, and you're already kind of in a good spot for the tournament. Lampkin's absolutely paramount to what you do. I think you can kind of hold him back. I think you're deep enough you can probably play fine without him and just give him 100% until he's, ready to go.
The 3 things that worry me about TCU in this game. Number 1, Baylor was winning by 17 points in the first matchup. Okay, they can definitely lay them over.
Yeah.
Mike Miles had 33 points in that first game. He basically was their superhero. Eddie Lampkin, 15-9 in that game. So you take out Lampkin, Miles, and the fact that Baylor has shown they can already get up pretty big on this team. I think that I'm leaning towards Baylor here. It was a good spot for Baylor to be sure, but still. Finally, Matt, I wanted to throw this game in there because it is intriguing, despite the ACC being down. Duke at Virginia. Virginia -6 per KenPom. That's probably where it's going to open up. Maybe 5. We'll see. Duke on the road, not great. Virginia, certainly the class of this conference. You got to worry about Duke ball handling in this game. Do you think they keep this close, Matt? If they get a win on the road here, absolutely huge for their resume, but not sure they can do it.
I don't know. Virginia doesn't really impress me as of late. I know they just had a good win against NC State, but I think Duke actually can exploit them inside as well as is to say with how Virginia's playing lately. But I don't know. And Vatech did that. NC State could not do that. They were really, I was kind of just disappointed with how NC State approached that game. They kind of like got trapped into the Virginia slog crockpot style that really favored Virginia. And it's like, you got to kind of at least try and put some pressure, up front. Not that NC State can do that. Duke can do that though. So we'll see. John Shire's not been very impressive in what I feel like have been obvious schematic spots, like where I think you have an edge and you're not playing towards it, or you're just playing into a disadvantage that helps the other team, as we saw against Miami with some of the rotations and ball screen coverage, Jim. So hard to trust Duke here. I don't know. I'm kind of torn. I think Virginia just wins this game.
Yeah, I do too. I don't know that Duke is like really made to punish them inside. I think they're kind of vulnerable to post ups, and that's not lively. And I don't really think it's Filipowski either. He's more like can take a bigger guy in
power
space
drive,
and beat him.
Right, yeah.
That's really hard to deal with. But I think Gardner is actually okay tolerating that. But with Shedrick out of the rotation, this might be weirdly a Ryan Young game, Matt. Like playing through him inside, letting him kind of attack on the block. His minutes have definitely gone down with the emergence of Lively, but it might actually work out okay to do that. I don't think you're going to get a lot of Lively dunks in the dunker spot because Virginia is so smart with the way they help. They're not going to come up on drives that badly. I don't know, man. I don't have a strong take here with the spread. I just think Virginia is a better team. Duke isn't really figured out what they are right now. I think Virginia wins, Kai. I don't know how comfortably, though. I won't be wagering on that one.
Yeah, TBD in the actual wager there. But that Virginia Tech game, you saw a lot of poor defense by Virginia. I don't know.
Did Shedrick get kind of hurt or something? Like he was such a dominant rim protector for a while, and now he's just.
I just read that they liked how the offense flowed with Gardner at the center. Like it was more like an offensive move, which feels kind of counterintuitive to how defensive to how Virginia's built. But their offense has looked better, I will say, without him on the floor. Just more spacing and whatever. But
I guess Shedrick played 26 minutes against NC State.
He played a lot more last night. Yeah, he was good last night.
They put him right back in there. I think he helps cover for playing more McNeely on the wing, who's not a terrific individual defender, but is a great shooter. So I kind of like the balance of that more.
Indeed. Hey, okay. That's our podcast. Thanks for tuning in if you tuned in live. And thank you, as always, if you tuned in on the normal podcast feed. We are back next week around the same exact time. If you want to catch us live on our YouTube channel, check us out there, 3-Man Weave. If not, we will keep talking to you on the iTunes and Spotify's of the world. Have a great weekend. We will talk to you next week. Goodbye.